Life for Carrie was a constant struggle and pain, but this would make her somewhat geared for experiences to come. Running away was her attempt to escape abuse at home. She tried to make her way through life largely on her own. There was some support which came through family and friends.
And this is where we drive to enter my grandmother's home. And this is where we used to spend all the Christmases and the summers. But this is where we'd sit down, like in the mornings, you know. All of us would prop up and be eating breakfast.
Carrie was always a hard worker. Even though her jobs at the time she considered dead-end jobs, since they lasted only to meet immediate needs. One of the short-term jobs she held was being a model in a swimwear competition, and this would form an alliance, which led to her involvement with drugs.
It wasn't a far off cry. I mean, you're not like you run the streets, but if you're independent in certain ways, if you flex certain ways, my job, you know, I used to be a waitress. You know what's happening out there. You know, this is the quote-unquote new way. You know what I mean? To make some quick cash. You know, it was a little common back then. Like there's this almost, it would seem like an upsurge. Dealers would be hunting for you, basically. You know what I mean? They were hunting for young girls to, you know, make the travels and stuff. And I wasn't necessarily thinking of the danger then. I was just thinking of how to put the money to use.
While her childhood was chaotic for the most part, there was some periods of calm. During her travels away from home, she got the opportunity and made several trips to the United States. In order to make a good candidate for drug trafficking, one would need this kind of exposure, and so Carrie became a viable mean to this end.
I was traveling from a very young age, so that in itself for any person who's looking to use somebody, quote unquote, you know what I mean, any drug dealer, if you have traveling experience, quote unquote, because it's a job basically, yeah, your ranks go up higher. You kind of get told how it goes down, you know. Yeah, he puts it in products, and you know you can hardly see, you know, that they're in the products.
As a drug courier, you don't know anything, right? You hear what they're telling you, which is that it's going to be easy, that you're not going to get caught, that nobody's going to get caught, because it's their interest in getting you to do it.
The next thing you know, you're being told that this is the day that you're going to travel, and you have all your travel details, and that's it. They just kind of say, here's your ticket, do what you got to do, I'm waiting on your call. Leave from the airport, get to a hotel room, and someone would come and pick up the package or the bag that the drugs would be in, and then they just hand you your money, you count your money, and then you wish them farewell. And I couldn't even tell you, so I can't tell you what them face looked like, I kid you not. I remember after the first trip, I remember going to the bank. I was so enthused. I don't know how much I put in there, but it was the most money I have ever seen in my life. And now looking back on it, it was like chump change.
Desperation led her to accept yet another encounter with drug trafficking, and this would have been her last attempt.
I was at home waiting on a job. I had applied to the airlines, and I was hoping that they would have, called me. Like they had, the airlines usually have like a hiring period, and if you're not called during that period, it means that you've missed it. He just called me up the day and just said, "Yo, you want to go beach?" I don't talk to this dude in a while now, and I said yes impulsively without even thinking about it, and that would be where everything started.
Carrie was 18 years old.
I think it was either on the second trip or the third trip that I got arrested. From the minute I got to the airport, everything was just different. I went up to the counter and they kept asking me, "You sure you packed your own bags, ma'am? Bags, ma'am, are you sure?" And I kept saying yes, and then the girl took my passport and left from around the counter and went around the back. By the time I got to New York, I had this weird feeling in the pit of my stomach. And the minute I got off the plane, there's a lady there with a clipboard, and she checked something, and she asked me to. She kind of escorted me, with her. So I said, okay, that's kind of weird. JFK, it was tiny at the time, and there's a long line, everybody waiting to get through. And I'm being ushered, like where to go, away from everybody else. I had just come out of the hospital for not being able to walk. I had chickenpox, and it lodged in my spinal cord. So I had all my medical records and all my medical documents. So that was my purpose of travel, right? And when I got up to the counter, I remember the immigration guy saying to me, "You're so young, you have your whole life ahead of you. and I'm looking at all the bags going around on the belt, and I see my bag, and I'm saying, all right, what do I do? You know what I mean? Can I actually walk out of this airport without a bag and get away with it? By this time, my chest start feel tight. I draw from a ventilator. I'm like, ah! And the minute I put my hand on my bag was the minute all the agents ran down, and it was something like a movie. Like literally, they just came from all angles, talking on, we got her, we got her. Yeah, art really imitates life.
And they question her, read her Miranda rights, question her about where she got the drugs, how much she was going to be paid, who she was supposed to be giving them to. They're investigating the case, trying to get leads to, I think, people who they view as more culpable. They obviously want to find the people here who the drugs are destined for.
When our nationals are arrested, it's a natural course of action that at some point our consul in the States will be contacted and informed of the situation. They would be arrested and placed before a court for that court to determine innocence or guilt and the level of fine or confinement to be levied at the accused person. So those basic things don't really change.
They give you like this lollipop thing, which is really Brooklax or laxative basically, just to see if you have anything in your system. They put me in a cell and I was sucking on my lollipop and I fell asleep. I was leaving now to head to this like a holding cell. They brought someone else out who had been arrested the day before. And she was really friendly. So what you in for? Where you from? You from Jamaica? And she said, yeah, how do you come from? She said, no, where, man? I gotta take care of you. The holding cell, I think I was at the holding cell for maybe like 2 days. 2 days, and then afterwards they brought us both to court so we could meet our lawyer, and they assigned us the same lawyer, and we were pro bono cases.
I met with her, I explained some of her rights, I discussed with her the facts of the case, and told her, what was going to happen, going on.
The normal course of them being arrested, charged and take before a court, those are mandatory steps in the chain of custody of persons who are arrested.
It wasn't until then I was in the car, the police car, driving down, and that's when I heard that I had 8.5 kilos of cocaine.
Then from that point on, she was held at a federal jail in Brooklyn called the Metropolitan Detention Center, and the case proceeded. She was indicted for importing cocaine. She eventually pleaded guilty to that crime, and then some months later she was sentenced.
That's when I started getting scared, because they started talking about, oh, you're going to do time for this.
For cocaine, if you import 500 grams or more, you're supposed to get 5 years, and if you import 5 kilos or more, you're supposed to get 10 years in prison. Oftentimes, because a drug courier doesn't have any criminal history, and they're a low-level participant in the drug conspiracy, you're able to avoid those mandatory minimum sentences, but not always. So the sentences are quite severe for drug crimes in federal court in the United States.
The judges here are very strict on locking people up that bring drugs from anywhere to New York City, because we're very strict on drug activity here, because we're basically trying to get rid of the drug academic, or slow it down, as you say, in New York City, because drugs are drug activity is very high in New York City.
If you're convicted of any drug felony, importation, something having to do with importation or sale, possession with the intent to sell of narcotics, you committed what's called an aggravated felony under the immigration laws of the United States, and you'll be deported, and you'll be barred forever from re-entry to the United States.
I felt totally devastated. It's as if the whole world was against you.
I was there, as I said, locked up from the night before. This is now the following evening. I don't get no phone call. I don't know what is happening. There's nobody paying us any mind. All you're hearing is, people coming in and out. Nothing is being said to you. And then you want to freshen up, right? So the first thing I was handed by the girl that was in there with me, she handed me a pad. She asked the officer for a piece of soap. And right at the cooler, and the cooler is attached to the toilet bowl. Yeah, right at the cooler, you wet your pad and you soap up and you dry wipe, okay? And I said, right, if you thought life was bad before, Carrie, It's about to get much more interesting.
More when we get back.